Hello, my beautiful and epic friend. Welcome back to the podcast. As we begin today, I want to talk about some of the things going on in my world. It's been amazing saying yes to many new opportunities. I am working in a telemedicine clinic where I am helping women lose weight. I get to prescribe Ozempic, Wegovy, Zepbound, and some other medications that if women need and are interested in being on these medications to help with weight loss, I help them in that capacity. But I will also tell you it's big on also lifestyle management because we know that to sustain the weight that we take off requires that we change our habits and our lifestyle to support that weight loss. So I say that because I have seen my mom, myself, I've heard from other women that when they go on certain diets and that diet culture and that diet mentality, that when they come off of the drug, when they come off of the diet, when they stop doing that thing, it's not just putting back on the weight that they lost, but a lot of times it's the overshoot. They put on more weight than the weight they actually took off. And that can be very disheartening. That can feel like, oh my gosh, I spent all this time, money, and effort only to get to a place worse off than where I began. And my friend, I am passionate that you, myself, nobody gets to that place where they do all the hard work only to find that they don't have sustainable results. And so we're going to talk a little bit on that today in the podcast, but really, I'm not against any medication for patients. It's really looking for the right next step and also doing the work that really matters, which is those foundational habits. So I've been doing that, and that's been a lot of fun, a lot of learning, a lot of growing in that area for me. And then also doing these living room chats that I talked about last week with women. Now seeing that women are asking for them virtually. So I have high school friends, college friends, people reaching out from the East Coast saying, hey, I heard you're doing these chats. That sounds amazing. Can you do them virtually? So I've been doing them on Zoom. And I will talk about an opportunity where maybe you could come in on one of those chats if you are interested. I think it's really important that women have not gotten the attention in the medical literature for a long time. What has not been discussed about for a long time has just been women suffering in silence with health concerns or going to various practitioners, and maybe they are not knowledgeable on optimizing women's health. And so I'm very passionate about helping you understand your health so that you can optimize it. And I'm not talking about average health here. If we look around at what's average, I'm not sure it's the kind of health I want. I want optimal health. If I look at what my grocery store carries, over 60% of what the grocery store has is ultra-processed food. So that's the average, right? It's just not what I'm about. I'm about optimizing my health, adding health span and lifespan to my years. And so I really enjoy helping women understand their health through education and through implementation. So if you are interested in one of these living room chats, please reach out to me. And then when I end the episode, I will be inviting you to a living room chat that I will be doing here on Zoom, and you can feel free to sign up. So with that, I want to now talk about, what do you habitize? So I don't know if this word is a word. I just thought of it, but what it's really making your behaviors into something you do kind of unconsciously. It's just programmed into. It's just what you do. It's just like you wake up and you brush your teeth. You wake up and you take a shower. It's just what you do. So I want to offer that we all have habits. We are all creatures of habits. We are all doing behaviors of habits. How I speak is a habit, right? I take pauses. I take pregnant pauses. Then I use my hands, right? This is all habit. I'm not actually consciously thinking, Sherry, move your hand this way. Sherry, pause there. It's just my habit of my habitual way of speaking. So I want to argue that we all are habitized. We all have habits. And what I want us to talk about on this podcast is, are the habits that you have the ones that you want? I don't mind pregnant pausing. I don't mind speaking with my hand. I actually like to be more animated. And that's why I love doing this on video. It's just, I think it's more fun, it's more expressive, and then you get to see and feel my energy in a different way. But are all the things that you are doing leading to your greatest good? Are they all leading to what you want for your life? So I want to talk about consciously habitizing because we all have habits, right? Some of us have made habits that did serve us at one period of time and that we liked and we didn't mind, or we didn't even think were harmful. And now all of a sudden, with more information, or as time has gone on, or as the process has gone on, maybe those habits stop serving us. And the classic example is my story of how I was drinking 4 to 5 days a week for years, didn't think anything of it. It didn't seem out of control. It just seemed like what I did. It just seemed like a perk in life, and it didn't bother me. And then all of a sudden, it did. I was doing a little bit more. I was doing maybe probably 6 to 7 days a week. I felt like, gosh, this isn't getting any better. Gosh, the quantity seems to be increasing. Gosh, this could be the road to alcoholism. Gosh, this can consume my life at one point. And all of those like, this doesn't feel good. This doesn't feel good here. This doesn't feel good there. And bringing that awareness to that habit is what allowed me to see it, evaluate it, and therefore consciously get rid of it. And so that's what we're talking about on the episode today, is really looking at those habits that, hey, if you've got habits that are serving you, you go to the gym 3 days a week, you love it, you don't get injured, you're working out to capacity, you're getting the results that you want, it's feeling good for your body, it's optimizing your health. Wonderful, keep doing it. But are those habits, it could be your way of thinking, it could be a scarcity mindset, it could be thinking, my best years are behind me. I do work with a lot of clients who say that, or think, gosh, I'm feeling in this period of my life where I'm just in such a transition and I don't know what the next phase holds. These things have changed for me. I no longer feel joy from this, or my body no longer feels good doing that. And I'm wanting to pivot, but I don't know how. And so that messy middle or that icky transition could be where you're at. And so we might need to change our habits. And I often say we do, because our body changes, our priorities may change, our environment may change. We may have had an environment where we had kids at home and now they're out. We may have had a spouse and now he's out, right? Things change. And so it does behoove us to really look and evaluate our habits at periods of time. Like, hey, if I'm doing a life audit, I'm evaluating my life, what's working and what's not. Because if something is not serving us, if something is not working for us, if something is making us feel tired or drained or sad, wouldn't it behoove us to try to get that out of our life as much as we can, or change our perspective on that, or do something else that would bring and invite more joy and energy in? And so what got me thinking about this word habitize is we all have habits, but are those the habits that we want? And this came from an email that I read that made me stop and just think. So I subscribe to quite a few different mentors and their email lists and people who just fill my life up in ways and in areas that make me think differently, evaluate things, just so I could be very intentional about my life and my health. And so one email came from Joe Polish. If you don't know Joe Polish, great guy, entrepreneur, has his own podcast. But what I enjoy about Joe so much is that he started Genius Recovery. He also has Genius Network for entrepreneurs, but Genius Recovery, because he's so vocal and open and honest about his own addictions, and he has had a few, and what that costed him, how that kind of bottomed out his life, and how he's overcome it. And I just think that's such a beautiful story, is not to stay stuck in our woes, but tend to become and use those woes to show others, hey, if you're in this place, there is a way out. If you're in this place, you don't have to stay there. And he's put together a whole Genius Recovery Network. And I just really admire that he owns his story. He shares his story. He's compassionate about his story and about people who are in that place. And I admire him for that. And I emulate him for that. Wow, I want to talk about my story in a powerful way. How it didn't keep me down and keep me in that space, but I chose to take action and steps to overcome it. And so I want to read you part of his email and dive into a little bit of the aspects of it because it really generated this thought of, oh my gosh, we get to choose what we habitize. We get to choose our habits. And I think that's such a powerful reframe rather than we're just stuck in the habits. And so the email starts like this. You can't fix the world with broken hands. You've got to take care of yourself. As important everything else is, your health is critical. If you take care of you first, you are able to help other people. When you look at situations where you don't like how you responded, well, you can improve it and keep improving. The common thread of all of this is consistency. You don't eat a healthy meal once, and all of a sudden, you're healthy. You don't have a great workout once, and all of a sudden, you're in great physical shape. You don't write a great ad piece once, and all of a sudden, you're a world-class copywriter. And then I added in, you don't have one alcohol-free day, and then all of a sudden, you're out of the woods with your over-drinking habit. It's about being consistent and doing consistent activities and concentration. Where's your concentration? Where's your focus and attention on? Some days we're going to nail it, and other days we aren't. And that's okay because that's part of the process and that's part of life. Consistently make your life as amazing as you can. I loved this email and it got me thinking consistency is how we build habits. We get to choose the habits we build. For a while there, I was unaware that I was choosing to build a habit of drinking nightly. I fell into the pattern because it felt good. I wasn't analyzing it. I wasn't trying to stop. I just did what my body felt was pleasurable. It was taking the edge off. And then when I started to feel like, hey, this isn't feeling good. The next day I'm waking up. I'm not liking myself. I'm not liking the conversation in my head. I'm not liking the anxiety. And at 4 o'clock, why all of a sudden do I crave the same substance I told myself I wouldn't crave and I didn't want at 8 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning? And the cycle continued. And I'm like, wait, I'm contributing to this cycle. And I can also contribute to a different cycle. I have to be consistent with taking a different path. I have to be consistent with the pattern interrupt. I have to be consistent in that process to get a different result. And so I like how he mentions about being consistent because that's how we make something a habit. That's how we habitize, right? That's how we become habitual. We maybe wake up the same time every day. Maybe we have the same 10 meals each week. Maybe our lunches look the same as we're out at work. Maybe we take that turkey sandwich or maybe we get that big salad, right? Whatever it is, we do already have habits. They are already built into us. And if the habit is serving you, keep it. And when the habit stops serving you or isn't the best habit to optimize for your goal, maybe it deserves looking at and considering different process to build consistency, to optimize that habit so you get the result that you want. And when you're doing that process, he points out a key thing, which is concentration. Concentration is your mind, right? It's what you choose to focus on. If you choose to focus on, you need the alcohol, you want the alcohol, you need that emotional crutch, you're going to find that it's going to be harder to be consistent with alcohol-free days because your mind is focused on the alcohol. It's the alcohol, the alcohol, the alcohol. And then we're going to also think it's the alcohol that's getting in the way of us being our best self, when it's really captivating our attention and our mind and what we're focusing on, what we're concentrating on. Are we concentrating on that alcohol? Are we concentrating on how we're going to have it or how we're going to avoid it? It just makes the alcohol more powerful. Our concentration, our focus, our attention should be on the habits or what we want to be consistent on so we don't need the alcohol, so we don't overeat, so we don't overwork, so we don't do whatever it is that takes us off course. And so building that consistency. So if we want to be healthy, we know that we have to habitize movement and exercise, right? That's part of overall health. If we want to maintain weight loss or achieve weight loss and maintain that weight loss, we have to make sure that we are consistently having healthy food because that's the biggest trigger, right? There are other pillars that I talked about last week to sustain great health and weight loss, but a big trigger, one of the biggest triggers is the food that we select and that we eat. And what we see out there in the world, unfortunately, is not giving us optimal health in terms of food. We have the fast food, we have the ultra processed food, and that is more the norm than the non-norm, right? So to be optimal, to be optimizing your habits for your best health or feel the best, you're not going to be normal. There's a big meme going around all on social medias like the new 1%. The new 1% is healthy, right? Because the average, as we talked about last week in the stats there, the average is unhealthy, is not getting more health. And so when you look at what you're habitizing, I think it's really important to say, okay, when I'm habitizing is the process to get to the goal that I want. The goal is different than the process, and it takes consistency to get there. So to talk a little bit more about consistency, consistency is not a feeling, my friend. Consistency is what you're doing. So if you think you're going to feel good with the consistency, I want to argue that you're not, because it's not about feelings. Consistency is about being accountable to your word. Are you doing what you say you're going to do? Are you doing the plan? Are you doing the process? And when we can't stay accountable to our word, wow, we can really start to blame ourselves, to get mad at ourselves, to have a negative dialogue with ourselves, and start to even project that onto others. Like if we can achieve our weight loss goals, do we notice all the people that can or can't? Do we start judging others like, oh, wow, they're skinny, must be easy for them, or wow, they're not, or whatever judgments we have because we fail at that for ourselves. I see this in a family where alcohol reigns in one person's life, is if they're not able to control it, they might be pointing out all the other people in their life that can't control their alcohol. It could be their children, it could be their friends, but that's their journey and that's their relationship with their alcohol. It's not yours. And their journey shouldn't be influencing your journey. That's like a muddied waters, right? And that's where I help women really clear up that thinking, because if they're muddying their own sobriety, if they're muddying their own recovery and healing because of somebody else, that's always going to get in the way. And that's not going to lead to a healthy relationship with their alcohol and with that person, right? So now they're compounding the problem and making it a bigger problem than what it is, rather than simplifying the problem so they could get to the root cause and clear it up and overcome. Because a confused mind doesn't like to take action, right? It starts to blame, it starts to look at other things. And I don't want you to be in that space. I want you to be focused. Like we talked about here, I want you to have concentration on the root cause, and all the other stuff just falls away, right? It doesn't cloud us with negative emotion and upset feelings and all of that, because no one is responsible for your drinking but you. No one is responsible or can exercise for you. Only you can. You can't delegate that out. You can't delegate out eating healthy either, right? That's within our control. And those are the decisions we get to make for ourselves. Now, I want to throw in another word that comes up when we're talking about being consistent. It's about focusing our attention or our concentration, right? That's going to help us maintain consistency. But there's another C word that's very important on this process, and that is having courage. Having courage is really about facing our fears. We might have fear. Can I lose the weight? I don't know. Last time I tried, I wasn't able to sustain it. Can I get over this drinking issue I have in my life? I don't know. Every time I've tried to cut back, it wasn't sustainable. So there's going to be fear. There's going to be like, can I do it? Could be the fear of, can I do it? It could be the fear of, what will life be like when I'm over there? Will I be happy? Maybe I won't, right? So there could be fear of success. There could be fear of failure. There could be fear of like, what will I do with myself instead? What will my new identity be? Like there is so much fear that comes up, and that this is the part we have to embrace courage, because courage means we're choosing a different path, regardless of how we feel. We know that there's going to be fear. We're going to have FOMO. We're going to have all the other types of fear that are talked about. Fear of the unknown, fear of what's to come, fear of whatever. How am I going to handle the holidays? That's a big one, right? How am I going to handle the holidays with all this food, all these alcoholic drinks, all of this celebration, and everybody gets to do it, but not me? Well, that's a thinking that needs to change, right? Because that's a scarcity mindset rather than coming at it like there is so much abundance here. And for proper self-care, I need to moderate or actually remove some of this from my body, maybe not the environment, but I need to really look at what I'm willing to put in my body and what I'm not. Because there is overabundance around the holidays, so much abundance, especially when it comes to food and alcohol, at least in the settings that I'm a part of. Maybe your settings are different, but my settings, like, I don't make sure I'm like clear of it. I could. It's not a detriment if I choose to do it that way. It's just not what I choose to do for my life. If I needed to do that for a time period to get my healing, absolutely. Would totally recommend it. I'm just not there now because I have achieved that status of a woman who can take it or leave it when it comes to alcohol. And that status feels amazing. And I'm owning that. And I love to tell you about it so that you can see that it is achievable for you. So it takes courage. Courage because you'll need to face those fears. And here's the thing, if you don't face those fears, what happens? Life gets harder because you're avoiding facing the fear. Then you're full of, I don't know. I don't know if I'll ever conquer this. I don't know if I'll ever try. I feel defeated. I feel disappointed in myself. And then you wind up with a life or years of regret rather than saying, I tried and that didn't work. And I tried that and that didn't work. Or I learned that this is helpful for me, but this part isn't. Or I learned I'm not speaking my voice to tell other people like, hey, no alcohol for me this time, or one drink for me and that is it, right? And I'm just not owning that for my life. And I want you to see all the paths that are available to you so you can get to your goal, but it will require courage. And it'll feel daunting when you start, but then it just becomes habitized. It's just like, I just say no to alcohol. I just say no to a drink. It's no big deal. I say no to dessert. No big deal. And then it's so habituated that it doesn't feel fearful for your body anymore. So I wanted to end this podcast inviting you to my next living room conversation. I'm calling it a living room conversation. You'll probably see it in maybe my emails. I might list it as a masterclass, but it's really how to drink less around the holidays. I have done this masterclass in the past, and it's been wildly successful. People have told me in the holidays, after the holidays, that what I've shared during this little masterclass was very, very helpful. And now I'm going to make it even more intimate. I'm going to make it a smaller environment. It's not going to be recorded where I'm going to send it out. It's going to be just this living room conversation where you won't be on screen, just me. And you can post questions for me to answer and really address where you might be stuck. What is really triggering for you? And then I can help you find ways that you can navigate the holidays with much less alcohol because it's going to benefit your health, because you're going to feel amazing. You're going to have less hangovers. You're going to have less anxiety, less depression. And then you can see what is possible for you, especially if this is the first time you've done this in a long time or it feels scary. Let's have courage together and let's conquer this together. And I want to empower you to do so. So there will be an email coming out. If you're a part of my newsletter group, you will get the email. It'll be coming out and you can sign up for it there. We're going to limit registration because, again, I want it to be an intimate environment. You won't be on screen, just myself. They won't know who you are. Everything will be private and confidential because that's the way I like to roll, particularly when this is sensitive for some people and they are not out there talking about it like I am, and that is okay. But I still want you to get some benefit and healing because you can overcome and you can habituize and habitize a new way of living and a new way of being around alcohol or food in order to embrace your best self. All right, so look out for an email from that. That'll be coming out, I think, on December 3rd is when I scheduled it, and I can't wait to see you there. In the meantime, please be epic, be encouraged, and do great work out there. Take care of yourself, my friend, and I will be with you, and I can't wait to see you next week. Cheers.